Hey, and welcome to Dr. G Speaks. I am Dr. Kristen Guillory, and I am so very excited to help you experience a life of freedom, faith, and fun you may not even realize is possible. Listen, I know you feel held back, I know you feel stuck, and I know you are hiding. As a coach and the author of Look, Stop Hiding, How to Find Your Voice and Never Dim Your Light Again, you will get to listen to some amazing stories, receive some homework, that's the professor in me, and get some tools to help you live the life you deserve. It's time to quiet the noise and walk in the fullness of who God created you to be. It's time to stop hiding and start thriving. Together, we'll uncover your potential and ignite your journey to a fulfilling life, a life of freedom. So it was about 5 or 6 years ago when I learned that some of my family members called me the queen of self care. And I was like, wait, what? They were like, yes, self care is your middle name. I led a self care training for about 150 people. And this is now probably 5 or 6 years ago. And at the end of the training, many people came up to me to thank me for the training, said they really appreciated it. And I responded by saying, thank you so much. What did you like? Like, what was your favorite part? And they said, you. And I paused and said, oh, wow, thank you. But no, what I mean is like what from the content, what is a takeaway for you? And their response was, you. And I said, can you tell me what that means? Now, in my mind, I thought, so y'all didn't see these 35 slides that I put together? And they said, no, Dr. Guillory, it's you. We can tell that you rest, like you are so serene, you're so tranquil, like we believe that you rest and we just feel it by being around you. And I was so grateful for that because I've not always been in this place. I remember being at lunch with one of my mentors probably 12 years ago now. And she quoted something one of her colleagues said to her and said something to her around, you seem like you're in captivity to activity. And when my mentor said this about herself, immediately my eyes got wide open. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that's me. I am in captivity to activity. And I didn't even realize it. I, for so long, made helping my identity. I put myself on a pedestal. I made myself the fixer of everything. I never said no. I never said no because I thought that's what I had to do. I thought helping was my only identity. I thought that this is what I had to do. Otherwise, people may not take me seriously or I may not be worthy. I didn't rest. I was leading self care trainings, encouraging people to do this, and I really wasn't resting. I began my intentional self care, mental wellness, rest journey probably 8 years ago, if not nine, just looking at what it really means to rest. And rest is not just sleeping, it's not just sleeping. And what really allowed me to see my evolution around rest was a list that I created just a couple of months ago based on a question a client posed to me. And she said, Dr. Guillory, what is your rest regime? We know you rest. We know that's so intentional for you. We know you have boundaries, but what is your rest regime? And I'm very glad that she asked me that question because it allowed me to really write down and look at what my rest looks like. And while there's no one size fits all, my list is not for you to say, okay, my list has to look just like that. But what I learned after people reviewed my list, they said, this is just giving me things to think about. So as you think about your rest and your self care, what's on your list? I'm going to share some of my list, not for you to emulate it, not for you to say, I'm going to do exactly what she's doing, but maybe it will allow you to come up with some ideas, or maybe it will confirm and affirm some things you are already doing. Because what I do know is that I would not be able to do what I do the way that I do it so well if my rest was not intact, if my self care was not non negotiable. Once again, rest is not just sleep, it's so many things That's a part of it. There are times where I may not even feel tired, but I have to look at what I just did or look at the gravity of the situation and take a moment to pause. There's a quote that my sister shared with me, and the quote is, "Just because you are doing nothing does not mean that nothing is happening." I once upon a time believed that if I wasn't busy, that means I wasn't being productive, hence captivity to activity. And listen, y'all, when I was in captivity to activity, it wasn't just around business things and professional things. I was really busy socially. I was out every weekend. And I look back at that. And while it was fun, part of the reason I went out so much is I was uncomfortable being still. I was uncomfortable with stillness because something in me said, if you are still, you are not productive. I did not even enjoy my home for a long time because I was always gone. My lack of rest and my belief that I did not need to rest and I didn't need to have boundaries was so bad. I'll give you an example just to let you know how bad it was. So, again, this is probably 2011, 2012. And no, it wasn't 12, it was about 2011. And I had a friend and I knew her schedule. I knew that at noon she was going to be gone from her desk because she went to lunch. I knew that every day at 5 o'clock, she left work at 5, would go to the gym, and she would be home by about 6:45. And I remember thinking that was crazy. Like, wait a minute, you go to lunch every day? You go to lunch like every day and you're home by 6:45, like you're just home, you're not going to meetings, you're not involved in anything else. Like that was my thinking. Literally, I thought someone going to lunch at the same time every day was crazy. I thought the idea of being home by 6:45 p.m. was crazy. Like you don't have a meeting at church, you don't have something else you could be involved in. That's how tied up to the captivity to activity I was, where real talk, part of me was judging this person because I didn't think they were doing enough. Because I would sometimes work through lunch and after work I would go to meetings and I would get home by 8:30 and not realizing that that just was unhealthy. I was making busyness into an idol. And to look at where I was and to look at where I am now, I am so grateful. It has not been just the easiest journey. This is how tied up into work I was at one point. It was, I believe, 2014, and I had a meeting with the university. I was going to drive to the university to meet with the vice president to talk about me becoming a consultant for them. I learned that my father was rushed to the hospital. So I go to Houston, where he lives, to go see him in the hospital, and I decide to stay a couple of days. What went on in my mind was, can I get to that meeting at the university, which would have been about a 4-hour drive, and then come back and check on my dad? My initial thought was not, let me call the university and just reschedule because my dad is in the hospital. That's how wrapped up into captivity to activity and busyness I was. So I did email the university and I said to them, my dad is in the hospital. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to reschedule. I'll send you some dates for times that'll work. And their response was probably the normal response from anyone. Oh my goodness, we're so sorry to hear this. Let us know when you're ready, but take your time. But in my mind, I cannot reschedule this because I'm going to lose the opportunity. I cannot say no because it's always a yes. And losing opportunity was connected to a bit of my scarcity mentality and desperation mentality. And that's a conversation for another time. I didn't realize, consciously, I did not realize that God knows and He's working behind the scenes in areas where we may not be aware. And so to be in this place now where my rest flows, my self care flows, there are boundaries and there's beauty in it, there's rhythm in it. I've heard people say work life balance, using the word balance. Well, I don't believe in balance. If you have ever gone to the doctor and you have to get on the scale so they can get your weight, in order to get your weight, that thing, whatever that's called, has to be perfectly balanced. Because if it's a little off, it's going to not get the accurate weight. And for me, work life balance is too much pressure. It's rhythm. There are going to be some days where I am able to engage in more leisurely activities than others. There are going to be other days where I'm able to do other things. So it's a rhythm. In my busier seasons, my rest looks different than the times where, for example, I'm traveling and not working. So there's a rhythm to it. And when I don't rest, when I don't lean into the rhythm of rest and self-care, I'm not able to show up in the best way for myself, for my clients, for my friends and family. And as a speaker, consultant, and trainer, it is paramount that my rest and wellness and self care are where they need to be to honor the gift and honor these amazing people who are allowing me to support them. There are too many people who are speaking about wellness and rest whose lives don't reflect it. And this is no judgment because I once was there. But the reason that the people at that engagement came up to me, it's not because of the words that I said, is they knew I reflected what I was talking about. To my speakers, coaches, and consultants, if you speak on rest or compassion fatigue or wellness or being gentle with yourself, do you reflect what it is you are talking about? The best commercial for your talk is you. And with that, I am now going to share some of the things that are part of my rest regime. My challenge and homework for you is to one, think about why is self-care so important? What is your definition of rest? There's a tool that you can look at that introduces 7 different types of rest, and it's restquiz.com. Restquiz.com. Because if we don't know that there are other types of rest, we may just think that it's sleep. Now, sleep is extremely important. Please don't underestimate the impact of sleep. Some may say going to get a massage, going to get a pedicure is rest. That's okay. It can fit in a category, but there are so many other types of rest. So here, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to Dr. Tanya Cunningham, who asked this question. Dr. Guillory, what is your rest regime? So here's mine, y'all. I strive to have intentional mornings. I journal. I drink some warm water. I write down prayers, gratitude. I stretch. I do some yoga movements, yoga poses. My sleep is imperative. I have good sleep. I need 8 hours. I need my 8 hours. I'll use cedarwood essential oils as topical to help with that. I might use yoga nidra. I do drink a lot of water. It could be better as of late, but I do try to drink a lot of water. I don't watch a lot of TV, and I don't really watch a lot of TV or movies that I consider heavy. Because I am highly sensitive, because I'm an empath, watching heavy, like very dark shows and things that are just heavy to me impact my mental wellness. I'm aware of the times when I thrive best for work. Like, these are my most productive times. And for me, it's about 11 a.m. to about 3 p.m. Those are my best hours when I'm just most productive for my type of working, not in terms of coaching calls, but just I'm in the groove and zone and I can get some things done. I practice gratitude a lot. Like a lot. I write a gratitude list just about every day. I say out loud things for which I'm grateful. I strive to take social media breaks from time to time. I may go a week, I may go 3 days. The longest social media break is I went on a 2 month social media break. It wasn't initially planned, but I allowed it to continue going in 2024. I lean into ease. I don't assume that everything is supposed to be hard. At one point in my life, I did. And what I learned is if I assume that it's going to be hard, it will be hard. This is not dismissing that hard things happen, but it is not assuming things are going to be hard. It's leaning into ease. It's leaning into, I'm going to find a close parking spot. I'm going to easily get these opportunities. I'm going to easily work these deals out, whatever ease is for you, and not rejecting ease as well. I strive not to make decisions when I'm frustrated or angry or before 9 a.m. I don't need to make any decisions before 9 a.m. I reject things. I say I reject that, or I think I reject that because it may be something that's not in alignment. The notion of Black women have to work 3 times as hard, I reject that. I don't engage in certain conversations that are not uplifting or edifying. I strive not to. Now, back in the day, in truth, I did lean into conversations that were connected to gossip and kind of negative. But for the last 10 years or so, I strive not to. Listen, I'm human, but I strive not to. When I'm around a lot of people for many days, I need to then be alone for a few. And this is just connected to me being highly sensitive and an empath. And I'm actually an introvert. And I use the definition of introversion connected to I recharge alone. I've communicated these things with my family. So if we ever travel together or there's a family function and I have to step away, they're aware that I'm probably overstimulated and they're very supportive. I say no and I say not now, meaning I'm saying yes to me, yes to purpose, yes to the Lord. I'm mindful about my no's. When I'm not in coaching mode, I strive not to answer coaching questions. Coaching is a different energy for me. And if I'm not there, I don't need to be there. I strive to accept help and ask for it. I did not do this years ago. I did not. But I strive to accept help, ask for it, and just be open to receiving the help in the way that God would send it. I deeply breathe. I not only incorporate breath work into my personal life, it's incorporated into my professional life as a speaker, coach, and consultant. I do not work in my bed. I do not do that. I dance, I hike, I move my body a lot. I'm revisiting yoga a little bit more these days. I strive to remember that I'm not supposed to do this on my own, and I strive to lean on and trust the Lord. I very rarely care about what people think of decisions I make that are God led. Like, I really don't care. Like, I really don't care. It doesn't mean that I don't care about what people think, but when I know it's a decision that I've been led, I do not care what people might think. Now, in the past, I did. I wish after I left my professor position in 2014, I wish I felt this way, but my feet were not fully planted in what God led me to do. So I did allow people's voices and words and doubts to make me waver. I try to be mindful of stories I create in my mind. And I'll say, okay, is that a story I've created in my mind or is that based on truth? I have a coach myself. I've worked with many coaches. I get to nature as often as possible. My favorite is the beach, followed by a lake, and then followed by mountains. I strive to remember that if someone does something I don't like or that frustrates me, that it wasn't their intention, and I strive to remember their heart. If I run into traffic, I say things like, I wonder what I'm being protected from. I wonder what's connected to this delay. If there's somebody that I see who's driving kind of crazy, in my opinion, I strive now to say, maybe they're in a rush to see somebody at a hospital. Maybe they're in a rush to get to their child. Y'all, I need my laughter. My sister calls them her laughter vitamin. I love to laugh. Like laughing is a top 5 favorite thing of mine. It is hard to make me laugh. I enjoy making others laugh. That is a gift of mine. I love to laugh. I absolutely love to laugh. I try to eat clean, get in my veggies, fruits, protein, my vitamins, all that stuff. I strive not to take meetings before 11 a.m. I remember what God has done in moments when I'm worried or confused or frustrated. Try to remember that God knows and He sees me and He's working in moments when I'm frustrated or confused or angry. I allow myself to feel what I feel. I don't force work. If I need to step away and close that laptop, I will. I will brain dump or even talk things out and voice record it if I just kind of feel a little uneasy. I've been really intentional over the last few months about loving myself and showing myself love and checking in with myself, thanking my body, thank you for carrying me, for protecting me. I will ask my sister for stretching or nervous system tips when needed. I travel often for leisure and I unfollow social media pages that aren't uplifting or edifying to me and my purpose. And y'all, that's not even all of it. That's not even all of it. And I didn't realize that I did all these things for my rest and boundaries and wellness and the gift until I wrote it down. Because again, I would not be able to do what I do if I did not do this. And one other that I'll give you is because I know and realize that I have a special gift and anointing, as many of you do, and my gift is way more potent now after my sabbatical, after my time in India, that for every hour or so of coaching or speaking that I do, I'm probably going to need 8 hours to decompress. Because in working with me, as I tell my clients all the time, be open to the quickness of things happening. Just a few days ago, we had the first session for my inaugural speaker certification program. And it was 2.5 hours. It was powerful, amazing, affirming for so many. It was beautiful and breakthroughs happened. And I mean, so much. And some folks who were on the call said, oh my goodness, and this is just the first week. And I remember thinking, while it was 2.5 hours in time, what occurred in that space in a different situation might have taken 2 weeks to occur. So the next day, I was so grateful and I was so tired. So I wound up needing to take the entire day. So, y'all, listen to your body, be mindful of your rest, be mindful of the rhythm, and know that start with one thing, less is more. Start with one thing, less is more. So this week, your affirmation is the quote that I shared. Just because I am doing nothing does not mean nothing is happening. Just because I am doing nothing does not mean nothing is happening. My rest is essential. Just because I'm doing nothing doesn't mean nothing is happening. My rest is essential. Thank you so much for listening to the Dr. G Speaks podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.